everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's so great to be here in Latvia. I'm here today to talk to you about two things that are very dear to my heart: video games and diversity. I'll be sharing a lot of my experiences as a woman working in gaming and esports. So, I know we did this just now, but I really want to know, and now that you're all listening and active, how many of you play games? And not just as a gamer, but on mobile, on your console, maybe with your kids. That's great. And this is great because we're here at an international conference. We are all separated by different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different genders. But guess what? Gaming strips that all away. We are eventually just humans playing and sharing the love of games together. So games make us equal. This has profoundly affected my childhood. English was my second language growing up, and it was hard for me to make friends. But at the age of 14, I realized that none of that actually mattered behind a computer screen. My uncle introduced me to this game called StarCraft, and it had a multiplayer mode, and so I would play with strangers online all the time. It didn't matter who I was playing with because my allies and my opponents were automatically my equals. They were coming from all over the world, and it didn't matter. What mattered was merit. Gaming is a place where merit can shine. I also played this other game called World of Warcraft, and I loved it so much I created a guild. I began leading raids. It was essentially a full-time job. I was recruiting people, I was keeping members engaged, I gave active orders when we were in a dungeon across a 40-person group. I had effectively created my own company within this game. And this game allowed me to focus on my merit, to achieve great things with people I've never met, and it didn't matter who I was. And most importantly, gaming provides a sense of community. I hung out every day online with these people that I've never met in person, but they were excited to see me, they were excited to hear about my day, and I really considered friends. I really considered them as friends. These communities have impacted my life trajectory. They helped me decide which college I was going to. It helped me get a job in the industry. Gaming makes these powerful experiences of equality and merit and community readily available to everyone. Wouldn't it be nice if that translated to the gaming industry, though, to the workplace of the gaming industry? I realize that there's quite a paradox between the equality of what gaming offers and what the workplace of the gaming industry offers. It was very easy in games for me to overcome my gender differences by simply getting by on merit. But in order to be successful in the industry, I had to learn how to overcome bias, which I didn't even know existed. Here's a few things that really stick out to me in the industry. So we talked about how games promote equality behind the screen. But when women try to make gaming their career, there somehow comes up a huge barrier of entry. Games were made for a long time by men, for men. And though the conversation is slowly becoming more inclusive, video games are still very much entrenched in this cultural stigma that video games are for boys. And this kind of conversation happens all the time. So here's a tweet from Erin, who is a host of TechChill Esports TV online, bemoaning the fact that every time she says that she plays video games, men immediately question her and wonder if she's good enough. And so when women step out from behind the computer screen, their qualifications immediately get doubted because they simply look different and are different. From day one, women have to work through these biases in the real world, even though in the online world, these gender differences don't matter when we're controlling an avatar. And so this is actually quite applicable in esports, right? Because women can be just as good as men in a game. But when it comes to female esports athletes, specifically an 18-year-old girl called Guguri in the Overwatch League recently, we see things like this. Guguri was immediately subjected to public bullying, accusations of cheating, and she even got threats of physical harm. She's 18 years old. The scrutiny was so high that she even felt like she had to, uphold an idealistic image to the world. She posted a Twitter where she apologized for stress eating and gaining weight. The harassment makes it so difficult for women to continue competing, much less even want to start in the first place. There's such a high barrier of entry for women who want to work professionally in gaming, and a lack of women and diversity in decision-making roles has established a monoculture that has perpetuated over time. I see this monoculture especially true in esports, where there's been immense hype and growth in the last couple of years. Esports is modeling itself after the traditional sports industry, where market returns have been validated and esports wants to capitalize. The issue with following sports with blinders on is that it keeps us on a well-defined path that's even more traditionally male-oriented. It's clear that physical differences are a barrier in sports, but not in esports, yet we're not thinking very deeply about how to leverage that. There are already very few women working in gaming, and even fewer in leadership roles. Without these female role models, there's often a lack of advocacy and mentorship for women, so they struggle to rise in the ranks. A lot of times they, feel like they don't fit in as a baseline, and in many more cases, they are promoted more rarely, they are judged more harshly relative to their male peers. These women are usually incentivized to conform, and they develop self-doubt rather than self-confidence. As a result, there is low retention of women, and even fewer women who stay get promoted into these leadership roles. This is a vicious cycle. These problems seem really hard to solve, but the gaming audience is diversifying really quickly, and there is an increasing need for people in the industry to represent them. I've seen the hunger for this cultural shift. So how do we break the cycle? I've been in the trenches of the industry for a few years, which is, in dog years, a very long time. And I have some really good news. I've seen simple but effective things that have moved the needle on this issue, and I want to share a few of these learnings with you. Firstly, we must keep in mind that including women doesn't mean excluding men. Men enabling women is a huge first step. And if men can use their current influence to help us in this cause, change can be enabled so much quicker. Now, there are two specific times in my career that I want to share with you when men have had this power to affect my career. At one company I worked at, all the layers above me were male leadership. There were no female role models for me to learn from or to set a culture precedent. And I was frequently given feedback that I was too intense and too aggressive and that I needed to work on my tone. Because of my gender, I was expected to smile and make people feel comfortable. I had no one to share my experiences with, and so I thought that I was wrong. I fell into a big hole of self-doubt and constant paralysis of fear that I would do the wrong thing or offend the wrong person. The men in this situation had no idea and no education around how to recognize and ignore their deep-rooted biases, or how to even guide a woman through a situation like this, except by asking her to change. And I had even less idea at the time. It wasn't until more women joined the industry and collectively spoke up that I realized I wasn't wrong for not knowing how to handle a situation with innate bias against me. But until then, I had lacked those other female voices to help me gain awareness. In contrast, when I joined Cloud9 Esports as a founding employee, I was empowered by the founder, Jack. He entrusted me to lead business development, and he upheld my negotiation decisions, even when I was very aggressive with them. Lots of men actually didn't like the deals that I presented them, so they would email Jack separately, trying to get a different answer from him. And the way he handled it was CC me back into the thread and tell them that they needed to talk to me. When Jack and I attended conferences, men would not acknowledge me, and they would go straight to introducing themselves to him. And I looked really unassuming. I didn't look like anyone important, but Jack would see that, and he would pointedly acknowledge and introduce me as his decision maker. As a result, I thrived in that company. It was so great to help build it from the ground up, build our different teams and departments, and it was amazing to see what a little bit of trust and empowerment did. We sorely need more women in leadership roles, and they are more than just diversity hiring goals. They are role models for everyone, not just women, but also men. Women in leadership set an example for other women who aspire to be like them. This lowers the barrier for women entering the industry, and by simply being present, these women in leadership send a powerful message that it's possible. Further, women leaders set this example for other men in the industry. Their position and authority create situations in which men accept women as part of the regular conversation, where their differences and their different ideas and behavior are normalized. For me, by being the only woman in my high-level meetings, I found myself as a role model without even realizing it. One time, Jack couldn't make a speaking engagement for team owners, and he sent me in his place. I didn't consider myself at the level of the other men who had impressive titles. But as the panel went on, I realized that the titles didn't mean anything here, and the experience that I brought to the conversation was valuable and equally important. And after the talk, a woman named Candace approached me and said I was an inspiration for her to pursue a job in esports. I was floored. I had ignored that part about myself because I was spending so much focus trying to push on in my own role that I didn't realize I was in a position to be an example for others. Candace recently messaged me, and she said that she achieved her dream and thanked me for showing her that it was possible. I never thought I could be an executive in gaming. When I started in an industry, there weren't any women executives that I knew of. And it's not that I thought I wasn't capable, it just never crossed my mind. There was no one I could relate to and aspire to be like, so I just learned to navigate it myself. And as a result, I had to mold myself based on other men's expectations and learn a lot of hard lessons through trial and error. It's important to me that I do everything in my power to change this for other women. The majority of leaders in gaming are still men, and that balance won't change overnight. In the meantime, women need mentors to help them navigate the structure and opportunities of a culture that wasn't designed for them. I want to share a few mentorship examples of my own here. And I want to encourage you that if my actions on a small scale can make a difference, then I'm convinced that scaling these can really move the needle. A few years ago, I founded Heroes Hype out of my passion for the game Heroes of the Storm. I created an amateur grassroots tournament league where players who wanted to go pro could practice in my events. My friend Gillyweed had never casted before. I encouraged her to start in a safe space by practicing casting in my events. That kickstarted her journey, and she later achieved her dream by being hired full-time as a professional caster by two big publishers, Blizzard and Psyonix. I also took on many volunteers who learned hard skills like how to broadcast a tournament, and then also soft skills like how to work amongst a team. I didn't start Heroes Hype with mentorship as the intention, but in a young industry like gaming and esports, the thirst for learning is so great that the org's mission organically morphed into that. Heroes Hype empowered women and young adults from diverse backgrounds to learn new skills simply by participating in something they cared so much about. As a result, they were better equipped to join the industry. As I continued my journey, I realized that I could keep providing opportunities for people who are normally overlooked. I recommended and hired several people from Heroes Hype into Cloud9 who are core operators of the company still today. I hired a majority of women into Cloud9 and used my experience to elevate them. Because I knew the general issues that women faced in a workplace, I would do my best to counteract them. I encouraged women to speak up in meetings. I facilitated when, inevitably, they got interrupted. I would instill confidence in them to ask for those raises and promotions that they deserve, but that they were too modest to ask for. I simply tried to be the voice that I wished I always had. So men empowering women, women in leadership roles, women mentoring other women. Just from these few examples, it's clear that individual actions can make great impact. So what if we collectively and intentionally combine all of our efforts? There's so much low-hanging fruit that simple steps can produce remarkable results. Let's make the experience of working in the gaming industry the same as gaming, with equality, merit, and community. I'm focused on leveraging ways to increase diversity across the industry. I welcome all of your perspectives and your conversations. Together, we can create amazing experiences by everyone, for everyone. Thank you.